Welcome to the Productivity Show podcast, where we believe that you can get everything done without having to sacrifice your health, family, and things that matter to you. Hi, my name is Tam Pham. I'm the founder and CEO of Asian Efficiency, where we help people become more productive at work and in life. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Brooks Duncan. How are you today, Brooks?
I'm great. I was saying just before recording that this episode is pretty much one of my favorite episodes to do every single year, but then I realize I say that a lot. So I don't know if that means much, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about our productivity gift guide, which is something we do almost every year. And if you're listening to this, you might be wondering, okay, holiday season is coming up, right? What do I need to get for my husband or for my wife or for my significant other? This is the episode for you, because we're going to be sharing a lot of gift ideas that I think you're going to like for yourself, but also for the people around you as well. So if you're listening to this and you might be wondering, hey, what kind of stuff are we going to be talking about? Well, it's going to be like apps, tools, anything that will make people more productive. And these are tried and true recommendations that we have. So we're going to be kicking off with some things that you might have heard us share before, because we kind of have like a best of that we always recommend, but we always want to add some new stuff as well. So be sure to listen to that. And everything will be in the show notes as well. So don't worry if you miss something. You can find everything that we share in the show notes by going to theproductivityshow.com/379. So whether you want to buy something for yourself, for people in your life, or you have people in your life, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult to buy gifts for this person, I think you're going to find something in here today. Now, before we kick it off, we always like to start off with our top 3 favorite resources as of lately. So Brooks, would you mind sharing with the audience our favorite things as of lately?
Yeah, so my first resource is actually a tip if you use the Kindle. And this is a tip I shared recently with our productivity community. It makes me actually really happy every single day, weirdly. But basically, if you have a modern Kindle, I don't think it works with the really, really old ones. But if you have a modern Kindle, go to Settings, Device Options. And there's a setting there that says Display Cover. Turn that on, and when your Kindle goes to sleep, with the lock screen, instead of showing the standard calligraphy thing that a lot of them do, it will show the cover of the current book that you're reading. So yeah, it's just a silly little tip, but I really like seeing the book cover on my Kindle. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is a tool called Crisp. So it's crisp.ai. This is something we use a lot here internally. And basically, it's a Mac and Windows tool that does noise cancellation. So I don't know what kind of like black magic it does, but it somehow is able to block out background noise when you are talking on your microphone. So if you have dogs at home, kids, other things going on, you can turn that on, and it really does a great job of isolating your voice. So that's the second tip, Crisp. And the third resource is a book. It's called The Toyota Way. So it's a book on productivity, efficiency, and philosophy from Toyota. Productivity, efficiency, and quality philosophies from Toyota that you can use for your life and your organization. So those are our top 3 tips. And as always, we like to give a heads up to our next episode. So our next episode, we're going to be doing something a little different, definitely different than this episode. We are going to be talking about a trend that we've seen a lot, and I know a lot of people here have seen. It's called the Great Resignation. So we're going to be talking about some of the productivity and career implications of that. So stay tuned for that next week.
All right. So thank you, Brooks, for sharing those. And let's just start off here. As Brooks is doing stuff in the background, checking his mic, because it seems like it was dropping in volume. So I'm going to wait for Brooks here.
Sorry, it should be good now.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's continue with our episode here, where we're going to be sharing some of the best of. We've been doing this for so many years now, where we release an annual productivity gift guide, and we thought it'd be fun to kind of do a quick recap of all the best things we've recommended over the years. Some of them are still tried and true that we recommend today, so we wanted to make sure we included them, and we have 10 of them here today. So Brooks, do you want to share the first 5, and I'll go with the second 5?
All right, so like you said, these are tried and true resources and gift ideas that we've had a lot of popularity with over the years. So we reached back into our archives of previous gift guides. And the first one I'm going to recommend is one that we talked about last year, and that is the Theragun. And there's lots of different models of the Theragun. The model we're going to be recommending is the Theragun Pro, which is kind of like the highest model, but there's other models as well, which are great too. And so what the Theragun is, and even though I'm the one talking about it, I learned about it from Tan, it's percussion therapy. So it's like this sort of gun, like the name implies, and you put it against places on your body that are like sore, or you want to improve circulation, you want to do some healing, and basically it beats the heck out of your muscles to do self-massage. And I like the Pro because it has a bunch of different settings. It comes with different attachments. And because of this episode last year, I actually gave this as a gift to my wife. So this episode last year caused me to spend money. We both used it a lot over the last year, and we both love it a lot, both for recovery from sore muscles, but also there's different programs that they have. And there's one we do before going to sleep, which is like a sleep program that kind of like improves your circulation. So the Theragun Pro is my first recommendation. So if you have somebody for whom you're always like maybe could benefit from massage or that type of thing, check out the Theragun. It's really, really good.
Let's be honest, you bought it for yourself.
Yeah, I think I even said this last year when we recorded. It's like, for those of you who know The Simpsons, it's like the Simpsons episode where Homer buys Marge a bowling ball, but the bowling ball has his name on it and it's drilled for his fingers. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was eyeing it a little bit, but we've both benefited a lot from the Theragun. So it was a popular gift over the last year, and I know other members of the community who are on the live stream as well have mentioned that they bought it either in the last year or they already had it, and they all love it. So the Theragun. That's tip number one, or gift number one. Gift number two is, I mentioned this earlier, but it's the Amazon Kindle. And this is actually another gift that I've given to my wife over the past year. We've been a single Kindle household for years and years and years. But since we both do a lot of reading over the course of a year, I ended up giving her another one. So now we have two Kindles in the house. And the Kindle, if you have somebody who loves reading, is a great gift. And there's other similar devices. There's the Nook and that sort of thing. So whatever works for you where you live and the type of books that you buy, that's great. But the idea is a thin and light e-reader. So the Kindle is a great one. I use it almost every single day, unless I happen to be reading a paper book. And I love the Kindle because it's super light. The battery lasts forever. The screen is really great reading in both normal light, but also bright sunlight. You can still read it, which you can't do very well on an iPad and that sort of thing. And you can, especially when traveling, you can just take a ton of reading material with you, and it weighs basically nothing. So I have a Kindle with me almost everywhere that I go. It's a little confusing because there's a lot of different models of Kindles out there. The most recent version of the Kindle is they just call it the Amazon Kindle, and that's great. I personally like the Kindle Paperwhite. I like it because it has a little bit of a higher resolution screen. I believe it's a bit lighter, but I could be wrong on that. But I like the backlighting, or the side lighting, I guess it is, that makes it really readable and easy on your eyes, whether you are in light, in darkness, in sunlight, whatever. The Kindle Paperwhite is my gift recommendation. I know the Productivity Show guest and your good friend Tan, Charles No, he was on the podcast before. I read on Twitter one time, he mentioned that he really likes the Kindle Oasis. So that's another kind of like higher level version of the Kindle. So he likes that one a lot. One recommendation I would give for the Kindle, and this is 100% personal preference, you can buy it with or without ads. For me, not having ads on my Kindle is worth I think it's $20 is the difference. I don't like having my device sitting around with ads on it all the time. So for me, it's totally worth that extra $20. And that if you have the no ad version, it does allow you to do that display cover tip that I gave earlier. That doesn't work with the ad version. But yeah, the Kindle is my second gift idea. Tan, do you still use the Kindle?
Yeah, I use it all the times, and I wouldn't say it's a popular gift idea of mine because I know many friends of mine, people in my life, already have one. But if you have never read the Kindle, or you know a lot of people who could use one, this is definitely a great one.
All right, so that's my second gift idea. Gift idea number 3 is something that we use here in my family a lot, and I have also gifted this, and it's called the Tile Essentials 4-pack. So if you're not familiar, the Tile is this little device that you can, and it comes in different configurations. We have a lot of us in our family have it on our key rings. I have one slipped into my wallet. There's stickers. So my son has one on his bike, for example. And basically, they're these little Bluetooth trackers that allow you to find something when you've lost it. And I know Apple has AirTags, but I personally like the Tile device because they're small, light. One of the knock against them used to be that they don't have a replaceable battery, so you have to replace them. You have to replace it after a few years, but they've since come out with ones that do have a replaceable battery. So I personally prefer that. But like I said, we have it on our keys, our wallets. You could have it on bikes. You could have it on anything that you're susceptible to losing. You have it. So we use it a lot in the house when my kids, for example, misplace their wallet. It's easy to find, and finding keys and stuff like that. We do a lot in the house. I've also used it when my son lost his wallet on our train, our metro station here in Vancouver. He left his wallet on the train, and I was able to use the Tile to track it down. And I actually used it once in the Austin airport. I have this routine of buying tacos whenever I go to the Austin airport. And one time, believe it or not, I actually left my wallet at the taco stand, and I was able to use the Tile to find it and get my wallet back. So yeah, you can buy individual tiles, or you can buy, I think the best gift is called the Essentials 4-pack, which has a bunch of different kinds kind of mixed together. So you can use them all together. So that's my third gift, the Tile. All right. And my next gift idea is, if you are somebody who has poor Wi-Fi in your house, a great gift idea for somebody, and I've also given this as a gift for family members who have complained about the Wi-Fi in their house, is a mesh Wi-Fi system. So the one that I personally use, the one I've gifted, is called the Eero. And so Eero is now owned by Amazon, but they are a really popular one. They've been a sponsor of the Productivity Show in the past, though not for quite some time. I bought mine. I paid cash for it. It wasn't a sponsorship or anything like that. But what this lets you do is put different Eeros around your house, and then they work together to improve the Wi-Fi. So if you're in a small apartment, probably not necessary. But if you are in a larger house with dead spots and stuff like that, using a mesh Wi-Fi system works really well. The Eero is the one that I use. There's lots of different kinds. There's one called by Netgear called the Orbi, which I know is also really popular. There's also an Eero Pro 6, which I kind of have my eye on just because it's a lot faster, but it's also a lot more expensive. But if you don't mind spending the money, the Eero Pro 6. I guess, Tan, since you live in an apartment, you probably haven't had use for the Eero. How's your Wi-Fi situation?
No, I don't need it. I live in a really small place, so for me, the Wi-Fi is pretty good. I can even leave my place and still have Wi-Fi. So I'm all sorted, but I can definitely imagine if you live in a bigger place, this is really handy to have.
All right. So my final gift, and then I'll turn it over to you for your best of gift ideas, Tan, is, and it's hard to give a brand for this one because there's a bunch of different ones, but basically it's a USB-C hub that has a bunch of different types of connectors. And so we're going to link to one. The one that I have does not seem to be on Amazon anymore. And I've gifted other ones to other family members, and they're not around anyway. So basically the tip is to go find one with good reviews. And Tan, I remember if you remember, I'm putting you on the spot here, but there's like a browser extension that you can use to see if reviews are legit or not. Do you remember off the top of your head what that's called?
Yes. Let me see.
I'm only saying this because while you're looking, I'm only saying this because there's a lot of different brands out there with a lot of different types of reviews. So you want to make sure you're getting one from a decent name with a lot of good reviews. But basically what these are is because a lot of times our laptops and more devices now just come with USB-C ports. But the problem is we have a bunch of different devices that use like the older USB-A, maybe use HDMI. We want to plug in Ethernet cables maybe. And these are these like really cheap, but really useful devices that you just plug into a USB hub, and then they can have HDMI ports, USB 3 ports, charging ports, Ethernet ports, SD card ports. And I know newer MacBook Pros now are coming with the ports added back in, thankfully. But still, a lot of people can benefit from this. So I've given this to my son. I've given this to sister-in-laws. There's a lot of people who are struggling with a bunch of different dongles, which all they really need is one of these types of hubs. So that is another great gift idea for people who are living the USB lifestyle, but want to plug in their different existing devices to their computer.
Yeah, the plugin that you were looking for is called Review Meta. So if you look into it, there's even a website called reviewmeta.com. So you can find a plugin there, but it's a Chrome extension that you can use, and it'll basically help you identify if the reviews or the average number of reviews and the scoring is actually accurate or if it's inflated by bots. So especially if you're using this for like peripherals for stuff like this is really helpful.
Yep. And we'll have a link to Review Meta in the show notes as well. All right, Tan. So those are 5 of our kind of like best of productivity gift suggestions. What are the 5 that you pulled out that you would still recommend all these years later?
Yeah, so the first one I would recommend here are the THL Sleep Blue Light blocking glasses. So it's a handful, but basically you probably have seen them. You probably have seen other people wear them, where they're kind of like orange tinted glasses to help you sleep better at night. Basically, we want to avoid a lot of light, whether it's from a TV or a monitor, before we go to bed, because it prevents melatonin production, which helps us fall asleep. So by wearing these blue blocking glasses, it helps us fall asleep a little easier. So I've done a lot of experiments myself where I went to movie theaters late at night wearing the glasses, and I was able to sleep right afterwards, no problem at all. So I highly recommend checking these out here. The second one is the Verilux Happy Light. So if you're someone like me who's kind of sensitive to vitamin D and having not enough sunlight and feeling moody, then this is something you want to check out, because if you're prone to like mood swings or like seasonal affective disorder, then the Verilux is the solution. So it's basically like this little light device that you put next to yourself. And when you turn it on, it shines like light on your face, which is trying to mimic sunlight. And so you can, one, wake up that way, but also two, get that sunlight in to prevent yourself from getting all moody by having not enough access to sunlight. So this is really helpful when you live in an area or a country where you don't get a lot of sunlight. So for example, I use this every winter. Even though I have a lot of sunlight in the summer and spring, I don't get a lot of sunlight in the fall and winter as much. So this kind of helps me even out my mood and making sure that I get enough vitamin D and sunlight that way. So highly recommend it, especially if you are working from home. So be sure to check that out, the Verilux Happy Light. The third recommendation I have here is a book called 30 Lessons for Living, Tried and True Advice from the Wisest Americans. And this has been a book that I've probably gifted the most. Out of all the books I've read, this is the one I give as a gift, whether it's a birthday gift or a present for like, holiday seasons. This is the one I always give. So the basic premise of the book is the author interviewed people who are about to die, and he asked them, hey, what's one life lesson you like to pass on to the next generation? And he compiled it in 30 lessons. And this was so profound on me that it inspired so many habits and changes in my life over the last few years that you probably have recognized and heard me talk about. So I love the idea of being able to learn from our elderly and from the next or previous generation so that the next generation can be a lot better and more wise. And I've implemented a lot of advice and ideas from this book. So if you love the podcast and what we do at Asian Efficiency and how we look at certain things, I think it's fair to say it's been attributed to a lot of the stuff that's in this book. So be sure to check that out. The fourth recommendation that I have here is the Mobility Watt Supernova. So this is kind of like a massage ball that you can use, whether it's for travel or just have it around your house, and kind of like release tension in a lot of different parts of your body. So before I had the Theragun, which is the high percussion device, I would use the Supernova, where I would just lay on the floor and kind of use the ball to kind of release tension in my neck and in my back, some of the spots that are a little harder to release tension at. And I still use this today because I can't always use the percussion device that I have at home, the Theragun, for specific areas, or it might not be intense enough. And so if you're someone who is kind of a fitness buff, or someone who could really use this because they work out so much, then check out the Mobility Watt Supernova. And then the fifth and final one, the tried and true, this is something you've probably heard me talk about many times, which is the Aura Ring. So there are many fitness trackers out there, including the Apple Watch, right, and Fitbit and Aura Ring. There's a Whoop as well. And I'm a big fan of the Aura Ring, one, because it fits me as a ring, which is a very small wearable device. Two, I like to wear watches myself. I'm a big watch guy, and I know we probably have listeners who are watch nerds, and we should definitely talk about that at some other point, because that's a whole different episode. But I like the fact that I don't have to wear more accessories like that, whereas the Whoop or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch is like its own little accessory. I like the fact that I can wear a nice watch while also wearing a fitness tracker through the ring. So I use this to optimize my sleep, to measure, how many steps I take every day, HRV, like all this good stuff that any fitness tracker will track, but just in the shape of an Aura ring in that sense. So those are the 5 recommendations that I've always recommended over the last few years. And if you've been listening to us for a while, you'll probably recognize many of them. And what's holding you back from getting all 5 of them for yourself, right? So if you haven't done that yet, that's the next step that I would recommend you do.
It's kind of funny. This isn't the usual way this goes. Usually whenever we talk about gifts, mine are usually inexpensive and Tan's are really expensive, but this time it's the other way around. I'm the one doing the Theragun Pro and Tan's the one doing the Mobility Wad little ball. So nice little role reversal there. All right, so those are some of our kind of like previous best of productivity gifts guide. So what we're going to do is we are going to share a new gift suggestion that we haven't really given as a gift suggestion over the years. So Tan and I are each going to do one of those. And then we're going to switch it up this year. We're going to be giving a suggestion for an experience. So a lot of times you hear people say, I don't need more stuff. I want to, maybe an experience is a better gift. And this is something we talk about in my family quite a bit lately. So that's how the rest of the episode is going to go. I do want to mention TPS Plus. Right now, we're getting great gift ideas from our live stream that we record along with our productivity community members and also our TPS Plus members. So for example, when you were talking about 30 lessons for living, Alice in the live stream says that she picked up the book the first time you recommended it in our gift guide, and she says it's a wonderful book. So TPS Plus is our upgraded version of the productivity show. You get episodes ad-free, you get them a week early, you get a bunch of other benefits like our show notes, our gift guide show notes, and that sort of thing. And you can participate in these live streams. So you can go to theproductivityshow.com/plus to learn more about that. So Tan, why don't you start us off with your new gift suggestion that you want to introduce this year as something that you recommend?
My suggestion for this year that I purchased probably in January of this year, so it's at the very start of the year, is the Apollo Neuro. So you might not know what this is, and I don't blame you because it's a relatively geeky and niche kind of thing. But it's a wearable device that you put around your wrist, or you can put it around your ankle and look like a fugitive, like I sometimes do. And basically what it does is it will send vibrations, and it's trying to mimic certain touches or human emotions that you're trying to experience. And what it's really trying to do is to control your nervous system. So the basic way to think about this is if you're working out a lot, right? You're engaging your parasympathetic nervous system, right? Which is the one that helps you kind of like, be active and focused, right? But also we want to be able to make sure that we calm down as well. And so we want to make sure that that part of our body gets activated, but sometimes that doesn't happen quick enough and we're always in the stress mode. And so by having this Apollo Neuro device, what it's trying to mimic sometimes, depending on the setting, is almost mimicking a hug. Like if you get a hug from someone, you feel instantly more relaxed, right? Well, that's actually a thing that you can mimic through the Apollo Neuro, which helps you like increase your HRV, which is the thing that most people are interested in because there's a lot of like scientific study coming out around, longevity and HRV and how those two metrics are very closely tied. So if you see that your HRV or heart rate variability is going up over time, it helps you get a better sense of your longevity and how well you're recovering. And this is something, for example, the Aura Ring tracks as well. So you can kind of see if you're actually on track to do a really intense workout for the rest of the week, or if you should actually hold back and relax a little bit more. So I've been wearing this device almost every day. And I know a lot of people here in the live stream also love the Neuro as well. And so if you are someone who already has a fitness tracker that tracks your HRV, and then you use the Apollo Neuro on top of that as well on a regular basis, you'll probably notice that your HRV goes up. And that's something that happened in the first 2 weeks when I used it. And that's when I was sold on the idea that this was actually working, because I saw my HRV basically going up to new levels that I hadn't seen before. So be sure to check it out, the Apollo Neuro.
I was actually going to ask you about that. If you're somebody who already uses I know there are different things, but if you're somebody who also uses a fitness tracker, you can, like the Aura Ring, for example, you can still benefit from the Apollo Neuro. I guess they work kind of like in conjunction in a way.
Yeah, like what we're trying to basically measure is the HRV in our body, right? So the sympathetic nervous system is like when we're like really engaging, and we have the parasympathetic nervous system where we're like relaxing and digesting in a way, right? And I might have said it oppositely earlier, so my apologies if I did. But most of us are just really stressed and we're like focused all the time and working all the time. So our sympathetic nervous system is like going, and we're not allowing our bodies to recover. And if we're always in stress mode, like that, is not good for our longevity. It's not good for our health. And that's how we get, burned out and like stressed out all the time. And it affects our diet and our weight and all those other byproducts of being stressed all the time. So one way to kind of like using a wearable against that is having something like the Apollo Neuro will basically trigger the parasympathetic nervous system to say, hey, Tan, you need to relax, calm down. You finish your workout. You're not working out anymore. You can relax now. You don't have to stay engaged all this time. So a lot of people use it, for example, before going to bed. This is something I use every single night before going to bed. And so it helps me relax. And there's a lot of other uses. But if you use it with another like Fitbit or Oura Ring, then you can actually measure if it's working or not, because the main metric we're looking for is the HRV.
All right, so my gift is something I just picked up recently and I'm getting more and more use out of, and that is the Apple Pencil. So I've been dragging my feet for a long time upgrading my old iPad, and I did have the old Apple Pencil, the very first version of it, and I used it a little bit, but it was always just okay. However, I've recently upgraded my iPad, and at the same time, I decided to buy an Apple Pencil because I know a lot of members of our productivity community are really, really into it. So I've started dabbling with it. And I think if you have somebody who has a relatively recent iPad, it can make a great gift, especially with the iPads upgraded to the more recent versions of iOS. So it's really, really handy for, first of all, just jotting down notes, especially with the quick note feature in iOS, where you can just with the Apple Pencil, you just swipe up from the bottom right and you can take a quick note and then send it to another device. It does really surprisingly, especially for me, surprisingly good handwriting recognition. So you jot down notes and it turns it into text. And you can use it to control your iPad. You can, if you're doing like drawing and stuff like that, if you're somebody who reviews, or your gift recipient is somebody who reviews documents a lot on the iPad, the Apple Pencil is great for like marking it up, highlighting, circling things. And they're making it just a little bit more and more convenient every single year to kind of like cross that threshold where, I mean, it's never going to be as easy as just jotting things down on a piece of paper, obviously, but it's just getting a little better every single year. So I've been getting a lot of joy out of my Apple Pencil. And so if you have somebody who uses their iPad for more than just watching YouTube and watching Netflix, like if that's all you do, probably an Apple Pencil isn't going to help that much. But if you have somebody who has an iPad and they use it for creation, I guess we'll say, or work type stuff, the Apple Pencil, I think would make a really great gift, especially since the older ones used to only work with the very top iPad Pros, but now the Apple Pencil works with a lot of different models throughout the lineup. Yeah, I really like it. I'm getting comments in the live stream. They're saying, I knew Brooks would love the Apple Pencil, because everybody knows I've been dragging my feet for a long time, but I finally caved, and they are right. It's a great tool and great gift. All right, so those are our new gift suggestions, but like I said, we want to change things up again, and we're going to give some gift ideas that are not things, but things that your gift recipient can do. And I'm really fascinated by your first choice, Tan. So why don't you tell us about your first gift experience suggestion?
So I travel a lot, and whether it's within the United States or all over the world. And one of the problems I always ran into, especially if I travel by myself, which I sometimes do, is that if I want to take a photo of myself at a landmark, I would either have to take a selfie, or I would have to ask a stranger to take a photo of me. And then typically the stranger doesn't know how to take a proper photo. So it doesn't look quite as good as it could be. And even if you are traveling with someone else, right, like let's say your significant other, sometimes you want to have a photo of you and your significant other at landmarks as well. But then again, the stranger might not take a great photo. So what do you do then, right? Well, you could take a selfie, you can bring a selfie stick or something like that. But I actually found an even better hack for this, and that is hiring a local photographer. So the problem that I ran into is, how do I find local photographers, whether I was in Paris or in London or in Toronto or whatever city I was in, right? Now, I used to use Instagram to kind of find people there. And you would use hashtags like Toronto photographer or London photographer or something, but then you have no way of knowing if someone's good or not, other than looking at their photos and if they're even available, right? So there's actually a website called Shoot My Travel. So shootmytravel.com, where you can find local photographers that are explicitly available on the website, and you can actually see their schedule and so on, and then hire them based on their availability when you are available at a particular city. So anytime I go to a new city and I want to have photos taken by a professional at landmarks, then I will go to Shoot My Travel, hire a local photographer, we meet up, and then what's cool is, because it's a local person, that person will actually kind of almost give you a walking tour, because you oftentimes do a lot of walking. And because that person is a local, he or she will have all the insights of where to go, what to eat, what not to eat, where are the good places, where are the spots that the locals go to that the tourists don't know about, right? So you kind of have a 2-for-1 deal, where one, you get great photos of yourself, whether you're doing it solo or with your partner or significant other. So you get great photos that you will always, remember. But also, too, you get kind of like an unofficial tour guide of the city as well as you're walking around town. So I found this to be an amazing life hack in that sense. And just to kind of give you an idea, it costs about, let's say, $220 an hour. If you do 2 hours, it's maybe like 300 or so. And I think it's one of the best money ever spent, especially if you're planning to go to a city where you probably won't go back to, and you only have like one time to take that photo with you at, the Eiffel Tower, or the big statue in Rio de Janeiro, or whatever landmark you really want to check out, but only go to once, I would highly recommend you hire a local photographer for that.
Yeah, that's such a cool gift. Like I mentioned on the podcast before, we have this Google Nest hub that cycles through all our pictures in the kitchen. I guess that could be another gift idea. And, my wife and I, back in the early 2000s, we went to Istanbul for our honeymoon. And, our pictures, we got some cool pictures, but a lot of them, you look at it now and it's just like, oh man, I wish we had better, it was on like an old 1 megapixel digital camera and all that sort of stuff. And you just think, oh man, I wish we had better pictures from that trip. But if you use a service like that, like Shoot My Travel, which this is another one I'm definitely going to be stealing for pictures of us when we travel. You never have to worry about that. You're guaranteed to have great pictures that you can use for years and years. So that's an awesome life hack. All right, so that's Tan's experience tip, Shoot My Travel. Mine is a little different in that sometimes it's hard to do experiences because it's kind of localized and you don't know what the person is into. So my experience tip is going to be Masterclass. So Masterclass, disclaimer, is a past TPS sponsor, but they're not sponsoring this episode. And basically what this is sometimes you want to learn more about a topic that you're interested in, and sometimes you want to be exposed to new topics. So what Masterclass is it's a bunch of online courses on a bunch of different subjects. So like cooking, business, sports, outdoor adventuring, acting, writing, comedy, filmmaking, music, wellness, like whatever your gift recipient is into, there's probably like some really high quality courses on there taught by, some of the biggest experts in that topic. So sometimes it's celebrities, sometimes it's just people who are like really, really renowned in a specific topic. And so the way they work is you pay for a year. So you can just give your gift recipient a year's worth of masterclass, and they can go through it throughout the entire year. If they're into cooking, there's like Mexican cooking, Indian cooking, like all sorts of different cooking, and whatever they happen to be into. And it's great for learning new things as well. So if you want to give your recipient a year's worth of learning, just hook them up with a year masterclass subscription, and then they can of course just not renew it the year after, and they've got a year's worth of experiences and learning. So Masterclass is my second tip. All right, so we are going to wrap it up here. As we've been recording this, I mentioned the live screen, our TPS Plus and our productivity community members have been sharing their suggestions for tips. So I'm just going to do rapid fire through a lightning round of some of the tips and gift ideas that they've been sharing. And we'll have links to all of these in the show notes. So Alice recommends the Remarkable 2, which is this digital pad specifically made for like note-taking and writing. I know a lot of people really like that for jotting down ideas and stuff like that. So the Remarkable 2. She also recommends the Moft Invisible Laptop Stand, which is a nice laptop stand. Giacomo piled on there and also recommended the Moft. They got in a big Moft conversation. The Moft, MOFT laptop sleeve. So that's another one to check out as well. Yoke recommended the visual analog Pomodoro timer. So this is a great tip, and this is something we're going to be talking about in a future productivity show with a guest. She really recommends using analog timers and clocks whenever possible. And so for your Pomodoro timer, it's something she's given a lot as a gift, is an analog visual one instead of using apps and tools. So we'll have a link to that. Phil recommends the CalDigit high-end Thunderboard ports. So I mentioned kind of like these cheaper hubs that work fine, but if you want to go more high-end, CalDigit makes some really nice tools for that. And then Giacomo wraps it up when we started talking about experiences. He recommends full wine therapy in Tuscany. So it's pretty hard to beat that as a gift. So anyone is welcome to give me that as a gift as well. So those are our lightning rounds. We'll have links to every gift that we talked about throughout this episode at theproductivityshow.com/379. But Tan, what should somebody do with all this information? I assume somebody's not going to go out and buy everything on this list. So what do we want to leave people with as an action item from this episode?
Yeah, I would say first, if your name is Brooks Duncan, buy Tan, a really nice gift on this list. Full wine therapy in Tuscany sounds perfect. So just putting that out there. But if your name is not Brooks Duncan and you're listening to this, you probably have a gift idea in mind for someone. So be sure to check out the show notes because we have all the links that we've mentioned in here. So go to theproductivityshow.com/379. So you'll be able to find the right product and recommendation that we have. Again, swipe if you're listening to this in your app, find the links that we have in the show notes, and I'm sure you have something in there for someone. And considering all the shipping delays that are going on in the world right now, I would say buy it sooner than later because things might be delayed. And don't hesitate. Take care of it right now because that way you'll guarantee that you'll have in time. And if you're listening to this, you have like other suggestions or you think, hey, next time you guys should add this, be sure to let us know on social media. You can just let us know on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And next week's episode is all about the Great Resignation, like a worldwide trend that's going on. And we have some ideas of what to do about that and how it's impacting you and what you can do about to combat that as well. So be sure to check out next week's episode. And I can't wait to see you back next week. And thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next Productive Monday.